All right, this is a first, Will, an in-studio guest. I think most everybody knows that I'm doing this out of my home office, and it's the first time I've had a guest in studio. Representative Clay Deweese, who represents my home county of Lafayette County, said, "Wait, can I just come to the studio for a conversation?" Yeah, we'll make it work. That meant late-night cleaning for me, though, because my office was not functional for anyone but me. So Clay Deweese joins me in studio. Yesterday was a big day for the Oxford School District. You were there. The Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, visited the Oxford School District, spent some time at Ole Miss. What was that all about yesterday?
That's right. Well, first, Richard, I want to say thank you for cleaning up your office for me. For those of y'all who haven't been in here, it's a fantastic office. It's really nice. Glad to be here. Glad to be your trial run, your first guest in your studio here at the house. It's fantastic. Yesterday was fantastic, Richard. The Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, came down. She spent some time in Oxford. I've got to say, I was. Anytime you have somebody that comes down from the White House, it certainly makes you very proud that they spend time in your community. I'll brag on my community. Bradley Robertson, superintendent of the Oxford School District, he and his crew did a phenomenal job. I thought they handled the program very well. He let a lot of his administration speak, a lot of the teachers, some of the community leaders around. It was just a really, really good day. I think the secretary really enjoyed her time here, and we were certainly honored to have her.
Yeah, you mentioned the school districts, and Oxford is a place that is incredibly fortunate in that it's not just one, but two public school districts in the county, in Oxford and Lafayette, that have both grown alongside the growth. Both have got leadership that's done really, really good stuff, and are kind of one of the examples for how good public schools in Mississippi can be.
Yeah, you're right, Richard. That was kind of the theme yesterday, was talking about community. And as the secretary said, I think you mentioned we'll talk about the trip to D.C. One thing she mentioned while we were up there, as the administration is wanting to give education back to the states, she has always said each state is different, and we've just got to figure out what's going to work best for us. As you said, here in Oxford, things have worked very well. As you know, we're a very populated town. High real estate values here in town. I didn't know this until yesterday. 60% of the school district's budget comes from the local taxpayers, the local tax base. 35% or so from the state, and then the other 5% from the federal government. So the investment in the community is what this community has decided to do. It works well for us. Am I naive enough to believe that that would work across the state? Absolutely not. It could work across the state, but I know that's not reality in other parts of our state. And it's our job now to figure out what will work in other parts of the state. I know the speaker's working very hard on that. He and his education team will have an education forum next week, see what he's got planned for the education packages he's planning to roll out next session. So, again, what's working for us is fantastic, but it's been the community buy-in that's really, really got that going for us.
You know, it's interesting when you think about Linda McMahon's visit. I mean, she has been tasked with, in a lot of ways, unwinding the Department of Education, but it's not this blind thing that's happening. It's part of this 50 states tour. I know that's not what she talked about yesterday, but when people hear, oh, the Department of Education is going away, it turns into this panic thing. That doesn't necessarily mean that federal funding for K through 12 or even higher education is going away. It just may look different. Is that accurate?
That's correct. And going back to our trip to D.C., when we did hear from the secretary up there, her first line was, "My job is to put myself out of business." So that's the direction they're headed. But no, you're correct. It's not saying that federal funding will no longer come to the states. It's just letting the states have control of the education and figure out what works best for their particular state.
You've mentioned it a couple of times. I mentioned it at the outset. You were part of a delegation from Mississippi that made the trip to D.C. I think it was Michael Watson that I was talking to that said, I've been around this for a long time, and I've never seen an administration at the federal level that has been as welcoming and as open to having conversations with state-level leaders. What was that like?
Yeah, the Trump administration has certainly worked diligently to open up an open line of communication between the White House and the states. It's really neat to be able to have that kind of connection and conversation with the leaders in D.C. as they focus on the states. So a great trip. We heard from a lot of the cabinet secretaries while we were there, and it really showed their efforts in, we want to hear from you what's going on in your state. And I'll tell you, we've had some conversations with them since being there. They're very quick to respond anytime you have a question. It's really, really neat to have that kind of access to the White House.
The federal government's never quick to do anything.
They're quick to respond, I can tell you that.
I guess the pace that this administration is operating with is
they got to be quick to respond, don't they?
A little bit. Switching kind of back to state level, the off season is getting shorter by the day. You get to the start of the college football season, and then all of a sudden it's a sprint to the end of the year, and you and your colleagues are back in session at Jackson. I think most people know there is a lot that happens in the time when you're away from the Capitol. We know there was a lot of leftover money this year. The two sides of the Capitol were not able to come to an agreement on some of the special projects. And so that money is sitting off in the side, hopefully gaining interest and getting a little bit larger. Is there any kind of a working plan at this point for how that particular pile of money gets spent? Is it as simple as doubling up next year, or?
We'll wait and see how things play out. You're correct. There is money there. We couldn't agree on how that money should be spent. I will say, as we move into the next session, looking at our state agencies, as you know, they were funded at the same level they were the previous year. This year, the year before that, we had really bolstered them up. So, moving forward, we'll make sure our state agencies are taken care of. You mentioned the pile of money for certain projects. We've got roads and bridges across the state that need attention. Our colleges and junior colleges and even our K through 12 schools, there's certainly some needs there. So as to how much money will be spent, I don't know. I can't answer that now. We'll see how the process goes moving through the session. And as you know, that's all towards the end of the session when we decide how and where to spend that money.
But don't wait till conference weekend to try and do it.
Well, that's our goal, Richard. We want to start early.
I've heard that a time or two.
We want to start early and get the process done and be transparent as possible and make sure our members have time to see the bills, see what's in there, and make our votes at the end of session. And that can be done, and we'll do that this year.
You mentioned colleges, universities, junior colleges. How big of a tough spot did these projects not being funded put them in? Because they're expecting some of that money, and in some cases there were projects that were either underway or about to get underway that I think have had to be put on hold.
Right. You know construction. You've done plenty of it. As we look at these projects that the universities had on their books, it may have been $15 million ask this year. Well, as construction costs have gone up and cost of borrowing money has gone up, that 15 may turn into 20 or 22. I don't know what the number may be, but yes, the delay is certainly costing money for sure.
When you look at your home district, Oxford, Lafayette County.
It's nice to be sitting in it right now, too, Richard.
A lot of time on the road, a lot of time away from home. Every representative, every senator in the state has a responsibility to their local constituents within the larger framework. When you look at what the needs are for Oxford and Lafayette County, what's kind of your priority list?
Sure. In addition to Oxford, Lafayette County, I'm also responsible for the university, and that's certainly an honor to be able to do that. When we look at the university, we do look. I know they're working on a new accounting school. That's one of those projects that we were hoping to get underway last year that had to wait. Dr. Boyce reminds me frequently that not only do we have the campus here, we also have a campus in Jackson at University Medical Center. Really excited about a project that they have trying to get off the ground down there with a state-of-the-art cancer center. Their fundraising has been phenomenal.
And we talked with Luann Woodward about that. I think there are people that are wondering where is the point that the legislature kicks in?
Sure.
Does there need to be a certain funding level on the fundraising side before the legislature says, all right, here's another X number of dollars?
Not necessarily. I think it certainly helps. I think they'll come to us in the next year or so with an ask, and sure, as they've raised private donations, and my understanding is that that's going very well. It certainly helps for them to come to the legislature with that money in hand. Locally, our projects, as you well know, growth is what we have here, and it's a great problem to have. I don't want to trade that problem. But accommodating the growth, as you well know, our infrastructure here in town is our main concern.
Spending money on infrastructure, not always the sexiest way to write checks, but you got to do it.
That's
Representative Clay Deweese, Oxford, Lafayette County, the University of Mississippi. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Richard.
Take a time out. We'll wrap up Mornings with Richard Cross with you right after this on Super Talk.